I mean, for people that maybe couldn't make it or if they,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think I'll wait just another minute or so.
Okay. And then I'll mute so that
Okay.
you don't hear me talking to Chewy. See, what do I need? Oh, here. All right. I will go ahead and mute because I know you're going to get started.
All righty.
Am I muted?
Nope.
No. Oh,
No.
Okay, wait. Oh,
There we go. And I'm trying to make, okay. See if I have the chat. Can you see it? Probably not on your phone very well. Yeah. Okay, well, it might just be me, you, and this blue screen. I'm not sure who that is. If you want to put your name in the chat, that way I don't call you blue screen. I don't know who it is. All right. Well, yes, I'll just go ahead and get started. So I think this is one of the topics that so many people have been asking me about lately. I thought, well, maybe I'll just do a little presentation. So this is definitely really low key. Obviously, it's just a few of us. So feel free to, you can even unmute if you want. And, you know, we can just have a little conversation. But definitely this is, Karen. Karen Anderson is my blue screen. So Karen Wooten and Karen Anderson. No need to be on mute around here.
hi, Karen.
It's just us. So yeah. Well, anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
She must be. Yeah, she must be. Oh, no, here's someone else. Hey, Linda.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad. All right. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and, like I said, really low key, just kind of a conversation that it seems like lately, every time I run into someone, they're always asking me like, oh, are you still not drinking? So I thought I would just share my little story. So, really, like I was thinking back, like it started years ago, like when I was, I want to say first becoming an administrator. So like Christmas break, you know, I always would come back after Christmas break and that would be it. You know, that'd be like, okay, you're doing like 30 days, no drinking. You know, my mantra always was definitely work hard, play hard, you know, like go big or go home. So like Christmas break was always definitely a huge, you know, too many drinks, too much food. So that always kicked off my New Year's resolution. So that was really what I did for years. So like taking a little break from alcohol wasn't that weird for me to do, but I had never like extended that time, you know, very much longer than, hey, Cheryl.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm kind of just going back to like when this whole thing started. And honestly, I want to say it might even be like 2005 is kind of like when I did my every January 30 days no drinking. So like that's really, I just continued that for the longest time. And then I don't know if you can mute Cheryl. I think it's your, I don't know if I can mute you. Oh, maybe I got you. I got it. I was able to do it. I didn't know if I could. All right. So then COVID hit and like, so definitely I was, you know, drinking more than I would ever want to admit to anyone on this call or anyone ever. But that's also when I was eating way more than I ever did. And COVID is also when I started my journey with Optavia. So like that all, COVID was kind of like just when everything came to a head, when I was like, you got to do something, girl. So I remember when I first started, my coach in Optavia, she's like, oh, Michelle, it's November. I'm doing a no drink November with my daughter. If you want to do it. I kind of remember laughing like, yeah, right. There's no way I'm ever going to be doing that. And then she, I said, I don't even know how well this program is going to work. I come from a drinking family. Everything we do is, kind of revolved around drinking. And, I just remember having that conversation with her, like drinking was just, something we did, and it was just what it was. So she did recommend a book to me. And it was called The Alcohol Experiment. It was like, do 30 days without drinking. And I was like, okay, thanks for the recommendation. I usually do 30 days in January. And so, I always had that book in my mind. So when I started, getting healthy on my, I first really was focusing on my nutrition when I started my program. That was November of 2021. And, I definitely slowed down the drinking and, got to my goal weight. And when that happened, I remember like bragging to my sister, like, oh yeah, I'm still drinking. And, I'm still at my goal weight. I was just, so proud that I could just manage, still drinking and staying healthy until I couldn't. And then I saw it happening. But also in that time I retired. So I was definitely celebrating, on the regular, like every day. But then also my hip, that's when I needed my hip replacement. So then I started to not work out as much. So it kind of, what do you call it? The perfect storm. Like all these things started to happen. And then by not working out so much, celebrating regularly from retiring, even if it was a year after I was retired, I was still like, woohoo, I'm celebrating my retirement. But then I saw some weight creeping up and I was like, okay, well, when I hit 140, I'm going to do something about it. And then when I hit 145, I'm going to do something about it. And then when I hit 150, I was like, oh boy. So then it was January last year. We went to Florida. And Cheryl, who's on this call, she might have been the last group of people that I really was drinking with at that time when I started this journey. But I came back thinking like, okay, enough's enough, Michelle. It is 2 full years of you celebrating your retirement. And I just knew I had to, rein it back in. And so I was going to do another 30-day like I always did. And then it just kind of continued longer than I thought. And, I was really, I remember trying to manage like how I could plan for the drinks that I wanted to have while I was trying to eat healthy and knowing I needed to, get my protein in and do all this, but yet how could I save room for my beer or how could I save room for my vodka? And it just wasn't working. I mean, I just couldn't do it. And I knew it, but it was, like me coming to accept the fact that this is what it was really meaning, that I was going to have to look at my drinking. And so I did my 30 days when I got back from Florida, it was like January 22nd was when I said, okay, this is it. I'm going to do it. Nobody was even like weirded out yet. They're all like, oh, Michelle always does 30 days. And then when it continued on, like I always say, St. Patty's of last year was kind of like the big deal because that was like the biggest thing that was, we met at the bar at 8 a.m. My dad, my mom, my sisters, and everybody. And so, I still did. And everybody was like, well, come on, Michelle, you're not going to keep doing this for forever, are you? And I was like, you guys, come on now, leave me alone. I'm not drinking today. And it was not easy. Like that was the first time I remember feeling like, do I want to just have a drink? Or, why did I decide to do this? So like, I did not end up drinking. But I remember that day was kind of, I was sad. But then afterwards, I was happy that I, didn't drink. So then, like all those thoughts in your mind, like I was thinking about how for so long, there was no way that I could ever think of anything that didn't have drinking as a part of it. Even if it was like, oh, we're going to get lunch, you know, it was like, okay, well, we aren't going to just go to Leo's Coney Island because they don't serve drinks there. We're going to go you know, I mean, it was just, that was what we did. And like I mentioned, you know, every family gathering, whether it's, you know, a kid's birthday or, you know, Christmas, Easter, you know, Michelle had our festive cocktail, and I would have the pretty glasses and the pretty stuff, you know. And, you know, we would go to the movies sometimes, but we'd only go to Imagine Theater because they would serve, you know, alcohol there. I mean, it's like, you know, and that's another part of this whole journey is like, you don't really want to admit, like when you say these things out loud, you're like, oh my gosh, it does sort of sound like you have a problem, you know, but you always say like, well, it's not a problem. I still have it under control. But I mean, all these little things that, you know, how much of a part alcohol played in your life was, you know, just, I don't know, every day was like eye-opening. You know, and another big like thing to do is we hung out in the garage, friends came over. I mean, that was just what happened. And then I found myself like getting kind of annoyed, you know, everybody's having a good time and getting a little carried away and then getting a little, you know, annoying. And I was like, you know, I'm just going to go in, you know, and I found I had to do that for a while too, because it was like, if I sat out there, I either was, you know, Debbie Downer, or I was just really annoyed and like angry at people because they were just being obnoxious. So like that was a little bit of a chunk of time where I knew like I really had to like get over that if I was going to make this really be something that I continued, or I was either going to need to partake because it was just hard to navigate. But the longer it's been, now it's, you know, over a year. I just had a friend that I talked to the other day. She's like, well, like, do you really think you're going to still not drink? And I was like, I don't know. And she says, you know, we're boaters, and how do you do it when you're boating on the water, you know? And so all of those things that I even told myself like, well, who would ever go on the boat without drinking? You know, and last summer was really like, you know, I became this connoisseur of sparkling water. I mean, I was like, every brand of sparkling water. Ron's like, geez, oh, Pete, how many different, I'm like, listen, how many beers would I normally put in the cooler? We're putting that many sparkling waters in the cooler, you know? So I definitely try all kinds of different flavors like that to help. But I mean, all those big milestones that I really thought were not possible, like St. Patty's and going on the boat and, camping. That was really like, what am I going to do all day? I mean, camping, you start when you get lunch, you go and you start drinking and you have your fire and you drink until you go to bed. And so I took lots of walks when we were camping, you know, I'm like, Axel, let's go for another walk because everybody's drinking around the fire and we're going to go for a walk. So, you know, it's definitely thinking about ways that you can occupy your time while everyone else is, you know, is drinking. But I still have never said like I quit. Like I have never said I'm never drinking again. I feel like that's how sometimes like when you're on a diet and you're like, I can never eat pizza. It's the only thing you really want to do is eat pizza. So I keep just saying like, I'm just still not drinking. I know you guys turned a little sideways. So I think what has continued to help me is that it does get easier with time. So for sure, the more you do it, the longer you do it, the easier it is. But then I think the hardest part to describe to people who haven't taken a break, like a good longer break from drinking, is how good you feel. And I was thinking about this the other day too, like, you know how we kind of, make fun of men, like when they get sick and they're all like, oh God, I'm just so sick, I'm dying. And where I think when we get sick, we're always like, I feel great. I'm not that sick. I'm, telling yourself you're going to feel better, but even though you do feel like crap. So I feel like we're kind of like used to not feeling all that great, and I was thinking of all the other things too, like perimenopause, menopause, all those other life events that, do not always help women feel well. But also, like, when you are maybe not full-blown hungover, but you're sluggish, you don't feel like you have energy, you just kind of be like, I don't really want to do anything because you had some drinks the day before. So I feel like we're kind of used to not feeling great until you really feel great. And like, I don't know if as a drinker, I could ever say that I felt great every day. Like now, how good I feel, it's like I said, it's hard to like put into words other than you just feel great every day. And to think like, do I ever want to go back to those sluggish days or those low energy days or those days where, I mean, sadly, I would say I wasn't even someone who really got hungover a whole lot. I'm like ready for round 2 always, So, but even then I didn't feel great. And now it is just something that I feel like I don't know that I want to give that great feeling up, and I am a little worried for myself that, one drink's going to lead to 2 and, 2's going to lead to 3. And then one day is going to lead to the next day. So I do feel like I am a little, nervous to have those old habits get back into play. I really just don't want that to happen. So I think when you talk about feeling great, it's like really truly like when you want to say you could hop right out of bed and be like, what can we do today? Sleeping better, clear head, no brain fog, those are things that, maybe I wasn't hungover, but I would say like, oh no, I feel great, but I was really not feeling great. I did feel tired and I did feel like foggy, obviously the freedom that I have for like, now I can have all the food. Now I don't have to block off calories for my, drinks. That's been kind of a weird feeling, like to say like, oh my gosh, I can actually eat all my calories. I don't have to worry about drinking some of them, being able to like, at nighttime, go somewhere. Normally, if it's after 5, my sister would be like, let's go. So I'm like, okay, can you pick me up? Cause I've had a few drinks and I don't want to drive. So like, those are different things that have happened that I, haven't done in a long time. So like, I don't want to give those things up either. So, but definitely, I guess I will get into some of the questions that that some people sent in. And then if you guys have any, feel free to either unmute or just put them in the chat. But, I definitely am not here to say like, everybody should do it. I will say, doing those little breaks, trying a 30-day, and now I do feel like, it is kind of weird. This is like a sober, curious movement, and, and the studies say like this is the lowest amount of drinking from people in all these years. The stats are showing people are drinking a lot less. And I think people are exploring this idea, which, I think that's just would be my message to say like that would be a first step. Definitely it's a very personal journey. And again, like things you just don't really want to share with people because it sometimes is embarrassing. Sometimes it's, you're a little ashamed, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. So those parts of, not drinking, I think are just a decision you have to make on your own for how that might look. I will also say, like, I have a document I put together with just some of the books that I read. Like I mentioned, the alcohol experiment earlier on, The Naked Mind, Sober on a Drunk Planet. There were some, and some are definitely more fun to read. Some are more like science-y, and definitely the impact that alcohol has on your body is something that I had no idea, which of course I didn't really want to know. I didn't want to know how bad it was for me on the inside and the lasting effects it has on our brain. But I mean, those are other things that are obviously helping me continue this journey, because I'm like, ooh, we already have so many other things that I feel like are impacting us that I don't need to add any more things that are detrimental to my health. So it is kind of helping me continue on this path. But I will share with you guys the books that I read, and also some people that I follow on Instagram. And some of them have Facebook groups as well. But it is kind of just interesting to hear, other people's stories, and if you are trying to do it, to give you, that inspiration. Sometimes you need just a little support, because that's the other thing I will say. It's kind of hard to deal with, is your loved ones can be the hardest peer pressure on you. Like I have a lot of people that are, friends, from high school, or even just internet friends, that are like, oh, I'm so proud of you. You're doing so great. And yet I know for a fact that my sister and Ron would really hope that I would just start drinking again, because then they'd have like the old Michelle back. So, that part is hard too, knowing that you really have changed, and it's just, you've changed for the better, but people don't necessarily see that or feel that way, because you are different. So that is definitely tricky to manage. So first question, like I said, if you guys, there's just a few of us here, feel free to unmute or put something in the chat if you have a question, or even a comment. I feel like I've been rambling on here. But so one of the ones I was writing here, that someone said, when did you decide you would quit forever? And I still really haven't. Like I really, for whatever reason, something about my brain is wanting me never to say never. Like I'm never drinking again might mean that I would want to. But I just know for now, I just am feeling too good to pick it back up. So that's kind of where I'm leaving it at, kind of open. But let's see. Do people pressure you? Yes. Okay. So I did kind of talk about that. Definitely for me, it really is. Like my dad was the worst one. I mean, he was like, this is ridiculous, Michelle. He's kind of, saying like, this is bullshit. What are you doing? And I'm like, okay, come on now, you guys, I need you to leave me alone about this. And now I will say that it's been over a year. That topic doesn't get brought up very much. Like I want to say the most recent, Christmas and Thanksgiving, like it wasn't even a topic of conversation. The first one, it was like a big conversation. And like this latest one, my festive cocktail that I always had set up for the family, like it was a non-alcoholic festive cocktail. And my sister brought her vodka. I did say, bring it, come on, it's okay. Like, that's the other thing too. Like, I never want to be that person that's saying like, no one's drinking in my house, or, like I'm never going to do that, because I would have hated that. And I wouldn't have dealt with someone who did that to me. So I know I would not do that. But I just figure I'm not going to buy the vodka if I'm not drinking it. So I told my sister if she wanted it, she had to bring it. So a question is life less fun without alcohol? And I will say, I was worried. Like I thought that maybe I was only fun when I was drinking. But then I found out I'm still fun. It is just, different in that, like normally when I would say to my sister, like, oh, let's go have drinks and talk. Now I'm like, oh, do you want to meet at the park and go walking? You know, and she will, but I know she'd rather meet me somewhere and have drinks, you know, but that's not what we're doing. So, I mean, I think it's a lot of it's in our head that we think we won't be fun when other people are drinking and when you're not. But I did find, like, even camping, and I felt like I was still the same fun Michelle. I just wasn't drunk Michelle, that, you know, eventually probably would have fell down at some point and, you know, needed help up and, you know, all those things. So you definitely can still have fun. What actually changes? So I do feel like I got more time in my day. Like all of a sudden I have so much time to do things. Like, I mean, sadly, like I said, this is always embarrassing to say, but like you know, if I started drinking at 2, at 5 p.m., I wasn't thinking like, oh, let me go do some laundry. Let me fold some clothes. Let me, you know, like now I'm like, okay, what can I do with my time here? You know, and I'm, you know, so it's like you got time back, you know, and just more time to do things for yourself. But also it is a good feeling, like, you know, inside, you know, you've done it and you knew it wasn't easy and you've made it through all those times where you really said, there's no way I can ever not drink on the boat. There's no way I could ever go camping without drinking. When you do those things, then you build your confidence and you feel stronger every time you do it. So, you know, that is a good feeling now. That's all I have for question wise.
So as I'm making my corned beef and cabbage, it calls for a beer. Now, what about that? Are you cooking with alcohol, Michelle?
Well, I haven't. Yes, I've had to run into a recipe with any alcohol. When would I do that? Like, I don't even know.
I'm putting it in.
I'm sure probably you know, isn't it like it cooks out or something?
It cooks out.
You know,
It should. Yeah.
Yeah.
My son used to be like, because he has never had a drink in his life. He's 27.
Oh.
And if we made chili, Chris always put a can of beer in the chili, whatever. He's like, I'm not eating that. It has beer in it.
Really?
But I think now he's gotten over that. But he's a big Coke drinker. He drinks his Coke, maybe a little too much, but
and he just never,
doesn't drink.
Never has, huh?
His sisters drink. The whole family drinks. He doesn't mind being around people that drink. He will, like, if there's a pub crawl, he'll drive. He has no problem doing that.
I am going to be the driver on St. Patty's on Tuesday. I told my sister I was going to go pick her up. I said, you just have to be ready when I'm ready. Like when I've had enough, I'm going to be ready to go. So don't think you're going to keep me there longer than normal. But
yeah. Well, so I read last year you left everybody.
Yeah, I had to, because I was like, that last year was when they were like, this is so dumb. You should have a drink. Just have one. And, you know, I was like, okay, I'm going to eat lunch and I'm going to leave. But, you know, like, I'm even thinking of my reaction when you say that your son doesn't drink. I'm like, why? Oh my gosh, what happened? Why? Automatically, I think something happened. That's why, you know, and it's like, why do we just think that way? You know, it's like crazy that someone doesn't drink, you know?
Right. Yeah. But he's fine with it. I mean, he doesn't.
I mean,
I don't know if he ever will. I doubt he'll ever have one. I really do. Just because, I mean, he's already 27. He's had plenty of time.
Why bother?
That he could have tried. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a big foodie. He loves to eat. He's not watching his calories. That's for sure.
Gotcha.
But he's a tall kid. And one time I did put in my MyFitnessPal. I'm like, just track one day and see what it is, you know, your calories. Because he put it in. He can have a lot of calories for a kid his age, his size.
Yeah.
And he was even eating normally, he was finding it hard to get to those calories. So
yeah,
his problem is he doesn't eat all day. Like he'll eat maybe one meal or something. So that's
right.
You know, not going to work for us women in our 50s.
About our 80s.
Oh, my mom said, what about our 80s? Nope.
Your mom's there. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone have any other thoughts or anything they wanted to add or ask? Like I said, you could feel free to put it in the chat or unmute. And like I said, for sure, this is not me saying you should do it, other than I would say, if you've ever thought of it, to just, set a little small, length of time to try it, but also know that it's very common, popular now, and there's lots of resources out there. I mean, so many resources. If you really wanted to do like a free challenge, a lot of those free challenges are out there. From like The Naked Mind is a book. The author wrote that, The Alcohol Experiment, but also she has a podcast. She has, her Instagram channel. So like lots of tools are out there. And then, of course, feel free to reach out. Like I would, love to chat with you, or, anyone who wanted to learn more or need any support. I would be here to help you do that too.
So I was just going to share a few of the things that I'll drink sometimes in place of a wine or whatever.
Okay.
But so I love these Remedy kombuchas, Liquid Remedy.
Okay.
They're only 5 calories and they have no sugar.
Yeah.
Naturally flavored. I usually buy them at Kroger. They're not cheap, but sometimes, or not Kroger, Meijer, but sometimes they'll be on sale. And then this hot water also is good. It has adaptogens in it.
Okay. Nice.
So a couple little options that I've kind of.
And I tried a few of those ones that had adaptogens to see like, is it going to help me like feel something different?
It doesn't.
It didn't really. But, it was, like I said, I'll go with all the different crazy flavors of sparkling water. I'm good with that.
Yeah. Just having something in your hand sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Karen, the other Karen, you said you just did a dry January and it just kind of kept on going. Was that just like last year, or has it been a few? Or you can text it in the chat if you want. I was just this year. Okay. Yeah. So we were probably right on a similar schedule. All right, you guys. Well, I don't want to keep you anymore on your Saturday. I am glad you were able to join me and listen to my story. But like I said, I'm here for you if you need me. So you know how to reach out, and I will send the book list and the Instagram people that I follow. I'll just message you those things that I put together, and I'll send them your way in case you're interested. So
Thank you.
okay. Thank you guys. Have a great day.